Hey, good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us. My name is Ed Recker. I am with Sallie Mae, and we are here this evening. I am here on behalf of NSHSS. So really appreciate them inviting me to have this conversation with you all. And tonight we're going to talk about scholarships and finding free money for college. So again, my name's Ed Recker. My title is Director for High School Relationship Management with Sallie Mae. And I've been with Sallie Mae for about 4 years now. Prior to joining Sallie Mae, I was on campus. So I was a director of financial aid and worked my way up to that position. And so I was in the financial aid office for about 15 years of my professional career, helping students and families really find their way through that financial aid process. And most importantly, and really most pertinent to tonight's conversation, helping them find free money, especially through scholarships. So this topic is near and dear to my heart. I'm so happy to be able to join you this evening. And with that, we're just going to jump in and move on with tonight's program. So what we're going to learn about tonight is how scholarships can help you pay for school, the variety of scholarship resources out there and available to you all, the importance and ease of scholarship search engines, how to create a winning scholarship essay, and tips on applying for scholarships. And again, what we'll learn about them today. So first and foremost, let's talk about how scholarships can help you pay for school. So we always encourage you to, first and foremost, actually make a plan to pay for school. And that starts with money you don't have to pay back. So a lot of times students and families will use their savings and their income, but we want you to supplement that by maximizing scholarships, grants, and work study. We also want you to apply for federal financial aid, and that includes exploring federal student loan options. We encourage students to explore federal student loan options by completing the free application for federal student aid or the FAFSA. And then lastly, we always ask folks to consider a responsible private student loan if there's a gap. So you can fill the gap between available resources and the cost of college, potentially with a responsible private student loan. We encourage students and families to evaluate all anticipated monthly loan payments and how much the student expects to earn in the future before considering a private loan. So we had mentioned the FAFSA. I had mentioned the FAFSA just a little bit prior, and we want to talk a little bit about that because the FAFSA, or the free application for federal student aid, is the key to financial aid. So the FAFSA application is typically available on October 1st of each year. But this year, the revised FAFSA, or what is being called the Better FAFSA, is expected to be released on December 31st. So we are going to experience a little bit of a delay in that. So most of the required information comes from your family's tax return. But this year, that information, with your consent, will be automatically pulled over to the FAFSA. So keep in mind that families completing the FAFSA for this upcoming academic year, so 2024-25, will use their 2022 tax return information. So again, that information is going to be pulled over automatically, but we still encourage you to have it handy just in case you need it for a reference point. We also wanted to let you know that some financial aid is awarded on a first come, first served basis. So apply as soon as you can. So I know December 31st isn't exactly ideal in terms of that FAFSA application opening, but we still encourage you to carve out some time on New Year's Eve and fill out that FAFSA, if not New Year's Eve or New Year's Day, within that first week or so, just to make sure that you're meeting all of your deadlines, because deadlines will vary by state to state and by school to school. So make sure you know yours and make sure you're hitting those deadlines. Also keep in mind that some financial aid is awarded on a first come, first served basis. So again, that's another reason why you're going to want to apply as soon as you can. Oh, goodness. For some reason, we moved forward a bit there. My apologies, folks. Oh, my goodness. All right, gang, I'm so sorry. I'm not sure what happened. Bear with me just a second. I'm going to stop sharing screen. I'm going to take a look at this. I think somehow our presentation got on auto advance, and I'm going to fix that right now. So bear with me just a moment. And as I take a look at this, gang, again, we're always going to be talking about scholarships here. We're going to dig in deeper, but just keep in mind and some of the things that we're going to talk about in just a little bit is how scholarships truly are for everyone. So don't think that if you're not the straight A student or if you're not the star athlete, that for some reason you won't be eligible for scholarships. We're going to talk a little bit more about that in just a bit, but trust me when I say, gang, scholarships are for everyone. And we're going to dig in a bit deeper about that in just a second. So there we are, gang. Thank you for bearing with me. And I really do apologize for that. But we're going to just go back to our regularly scheduled programming here and talk a little bit more about scholarships. So scholarships and grants. So we talk about them both kind of hand in hand because they're both what we would call free money. They're utilized by 76% of families to cover school costs. 57% relied on grants for families, and 61% used scholarships. So again, of that 76%, 57% relied on grants and 61% used scholarships. So the big takeaway from that is you can use both. It's not an and, it's not an or, it's an and. And we'll spend a little bit of time on scholarships, a little bit more time on scholarships, because it's such an important source for school funding. In general, schools continue to be the main source of scholarship dollars. In fact, 2/3 of families that use scholarships say they receive them from the college or university with an average amount just over $8,000. However, scholarships from states used by 37% of scholarship families, and those from private companies used by 35% of families are also very important in helping make college happen. All right, so digging into scholarships just a little bit more, 79% of families that relied on scholarships last year say that they really made it possible for the student to attend college. And overall, they're also a source of pride. 86% of families tell us that earning a scholarship is something to be really proud of. However, there are significant misconceptions that still exist about the availability and qualification for scholarships. For example, 45% of students and parents believe that scholarships are only for students with exceptional grades, skills, or abilities, and another 31% believe that it's not worth applying for scholarships if the family makes too much money. So here, a quarter of those who agree with this statement believe that, quote, too much means making between $100,000 and $150,000 a year. And another 22% believe it's making between $150,000 and $250,000. And finally, 33% believe too much is making more than $250,000. And gang, I'm here to help debunk that because the vast majority of scholarships do not have a need component. What that means is it doesn't matter how much money the family makes. Oftentimes, the scholarship is looking at the student and their skills and abilities themselves. So keep that in mind as well, that there really oftentimes is no income cap. There is no limit when it comes to scholarships and what causes you to be eligible for them. All right. So in all, we had 39% of families who did not use scholarships last year, and the vast majority of this group, so 74%, tell us they didn't even apply. So why aren't more families applying? So our research suggests that this has to do first and foremost with the lack of awareness. 46% of families who didn't apply tell us that they didn't know of any scholarships at all or didn't know of scholarships that their student may qualify for. Others are making a trade-off between their perceived likelihood of winning, so 29% didn't apply because they didn't think they would win, and the effort required to submit an application. 19% didn't apply because it was too much effort. And all this results in what the National Scholarship Providers Association, or NSPA, estimates to be an average of 100 million in scholarship funds that are left unclaimed every academic year, largely due to lack of applicants. So gang, I'm going to repeat that because it's so powerful and it really bears repeating. According to the National Scholarship Providers Association, they estimate an average of $100 million in scholarship funds are left unclaimed every academic year, and it's largely due to lack of applicants. So I want you to keep that in mind as you're moving forward. And I ask you, actually beg you, don't be one of these statistics where you're not applying because you just don't think there's money out there or you don't think that you would qualify or be eligible. So now that we've talked a little bit more about the importance of scholarships, how they're used, and quite frankly, why some folks aren't applying, let's talk about the variety of scholarship resources. So I'd mentioned it earlier, but scholarships are financial aid awards that don't have to be repaid. So this is free money. This is money that, again, it's free. It's out there for the getting. Go get it. A scholarship might cover the entire cost of your tuition, or it might be a one-time award for a few $100s. Either way, it's worth applying for because it helps reduce the cost of your education. So gang, I know oftentimes folks wonder, this is quote unquote only $500 or this is only $1,000. I can tell you from personal experience working in the financial aid office, you could really tell the students who just took it a little more seriously than others. They would stack those scholarships, $500 here, $750 there, $1,000 here, and all of a sudden, before you knew it, they had $5,000, $6,000, $7,000, maybe more in scholarships coming up from outside organizations because they took the time to apply and they weren't scared away by the quote unquote small scholarships. So the next thing, if you're wondering when you should apply for scholarships, each scholarship has its own unique requirements that indicate who qualifies and how to apply. It also depends on the scholarship deadline dates. Some deadlines are as early as a year before college starts. So if you're in high school now, you should be researching and applying for scholarships during the summer between your junior and senior years. I know for a lot of you all on this webinar, you might already be there or you're past that. But so I want to just really reinforce, if you are past that, don't give up because, a lot of those scholarship opportunities are still open. Just keep looking and keep plugging away. Look at scholarship information to see which ones you can still apply for right now. Again, a lot of those windows are still open. There are a lot of opportunities still out there. So even though we give these statements about this would be ideal, even though it isn't necessarily ideal right now, there's still time. Keep looking, keep applying. And that leads us into the next part, which is how to apply. Each scholarship has its own requirements. The scholarship's website should give you an idea of who qualifies for the scholarship and how to apply. So make sure you read the application carefully, fill it out completely, and meet the application deadline date. All right. And there are many resources for scholarships. So we have some listed here, but students can turn to their local communities, federal and state agencies, employers, libraries, and online search engines to look for scholarships. And gang, I'm here to tell you that it's not a one size fits all. And it's also, you're not going to be able to get everything with one resource. That's why we list all of these resources out there for you, because they are all very important. They all play their own role. And by leveraging multiple of them, you can really maximize the scholarship dollars that you'll potentially get. So let's talk about the scholarships that are available. So some people believe that scholarships are only for athletes or scholars. And I had mentioned this a little earlier during our unscheduled pause, if you will. But in some cases that is true. But in most cases, it's not. And there are so many other opportunities. In fact, you wouldn't believe the types and numbers available. So again, I'm just going back to that $100 million left on the table annually. They're out there, and they're out there for almost every skill, interest, and hobby. There's a scholarship out there for tall or short people, volunteers, slam poets, filmmakers, and the list really does go on, gang. I've seen some out there most recently for Stranger Things fans or the Eras Tour scholarship. Gang, I'm not kidding. They're out there. Whatever you're into, whatever your niche is, chances are there are scholarships out there available for you. The challenge really is looking for that right scholarship, and it can take some time, but students should realize how important this free money can be, because the more free money you can get for college, the less you'll either have to pay out of pocket or the less you'll have to borrow. In either case, free money is best. It's better to use someone else's money than have to borrow it or pay for it out of your own pocket. And scholarships can be awarded for a variety of reasons, as you can see from the list on the slide. So we've got some reasons listed there. And while federal and state governments award some scholarships, again, the majority of funds are awarded by the institution in which the student enrolls and by private organizations. So again, I know we had discussed that a little bit earlier, but I wanted to reinforce that. There are a lot of opportunities out there, state and federal government, local governments, yeah, it's out there. But by and large, the majority of those scholarships are going to come from your college or university and from private organizations. So let's pivot just a little bit, because one of the resources that we had talked about was a scholarship search engine. And I want to hit on one of them. So scholarship search engines house an aggregate list of scholarships and allow the users to be matched to scholarships based on a personal profile you create. And we do that with NSHSS with the scholarship search engine that we have listed here. So the URL is on the screen. The QR code is also on the screen. And gang, we will have this at the end of the presentation as well. Once you create your profile as new scholar, it's going to match you up to scholarships immediately, but then it's going to get you additional matches as new scholarships are added to the database, and you will be notified of those matches. So really the key to any scholarship search engine, but especially ours, is to keep your profile up to date. So any test scores, GPAs, clubs, organizations, community service, and volunteer activities. And keep in mind, this is not just for your junior or senior year in high school. Update your profile when you get to college with your first semester GPA, activities, and organizations you're involved in, especially if you change your major. So keep that in mind. And again, there are a variety of search engines out there, and I've already talked about ours. You can also take a look at some that we would recommend is Big Future by the College Board, as well as fastweb.com. So there are some additional ones out there. Obviously, we prefer the one that we partner with together, but we'd ask you to, take a look at others as well if you so deem it necessary. So what things you should look for in a scholarship search engine? So I'd mentioned some additional resources out there, but in your search for scholarships, you'll find search engines. Again, they'll help you narrow that search and help you guide you to additional scholarships. Things you should think about, though, is the tool should be free. So never pay for scholarship applications or to have someone help you find scholarships. Validating scholarships ensures current and up-to-date opportunities, and calendar features to help you know what deadline dates are first and get your application plan and timeline in place. Filtering is important too, as it will help you to not miss deadlines or apply for larger award amount scholarships first. Sometimes it's really nice to have ratings that are provided by previous applicants and recipients, much like product reviews when shopping online. Take advice from those who have gone before you and have been through this. Again, we talked about email alerts for new scholarship matches, and saving and updating your profile really is key. And you should also use your mobile device for, well, you do use your mobile device for everything. Why not finding scholarships? So it's easily accessible and always on hand. All right, so as we continue, let's talk a little bit more about creating a winning scholarship essay. So as you know, most scholarships will require some type of essay, or actually some scholarships have pivoted to kind of newer media. So whether that be a voice recording or some type of video, it's all kind of the same thing. Whether if it's a video, it's really just a visual essay. So think of it from that perspective. We're going to touch on some of the more important points in creating that winning essay or video. So first and foremost, leave yourself plenty of time to produce a well thought out entry. So take the time to brainstorm your ideas, create an outline, and edit your entry as you would for any essay writing assignment for your English class or any class for that matter. Think before you write, brainstorm to generate some good ideas, and then help create an outline to help get you going. And gang, I can tell you this is so important. If nothing else, just to organize your thoughts. What are they looking for? What are you going to speak to? What are those important points? Lay them out. It makes a world of difference when you're writing that essay. Each scholarship provider is looking for students who meet certain criteria. So consider writing about an experience or interest that highlights your strong ties to the organization's mission. Genuine passion and enthusiasm for your topic will show through in your essay writing. And gang, I think this debunks a somewhat common misconception where oftentimes folks think, well, if I write one really good essay, it'll travel to whatever scholarship that I'm looking for. And I would say that's correct to an extent, but really, folks, these scholarship providers, they are looking for the unique and authentic you, but they're also looking to how it ties back to them as well. So keep that in mind as you move forward. Make sure to follow all of the necessary steps and review them before submitting your scholarship essay. Trust us, some of the brightest students have missed out on the chance to earn scholarship dollars all because they neglected to follow instructions. You don't want to fall into that category. Scholarship committees would rather see how you overcame hardships and succeeded despite the obstacles in your path, or what you learned from the times you failed. We all have failures. Those can also be translated into fantastic scholarship essays as well. Share something about who you are. This is your chance to elaborate on elsewise on your application. You wouldn't have the opportunity to do so. So telling your story makes an essay genuine and ultimately more memorable to the scholarship committee. You'll also want to think about asking teachers, counselors, family members, or trustworthy friends for feedback on your essay, and that will result in a better final product. And I'll also say scholarship committees do notice grammar mistakes. Even tiny errors can distract a reader from your overall message. So before you submit an application, make sure you take the time to proofread your essay from beginning to end. And lastly, I know this one sounds silly, but when you're tired, just take a break. Don't throw in the towel. Don't say, I'm done with this and walk away. Just take a break. Come back to it, an hour, 2 hours, maybe a couple days later. Give yourself time to breathe, to refresh, and then come back to it. Look at it with new eyes, fresh eyes, and you'll be surprised at how much smoother and better things often go. So again, just a real quick overview. A good scholarship essay is original and honest. It states clearly why you deserve to win the scholarship. It avoids unnecessary information, and it's usually inspirational and in a positive tone. So we acknowledge that some scholarships are a little bit different. They can be quirky or a bit unusual. And that's where you can use a tool such as our scholarship search to find scholarships with unconventional criteria. It's not all about the A's in sports. There are thousands of scholarships out there for unique skills, interests, or creative entries. So whether you choose to make prom attire from duct tape, love your pet, or love to roller skate, check out the options available and apply for scholarships that can help you fund your dream. And gang, we're nearing the end, but we do want to hit some summary tips for applying for scholarships. So first and foremost, leave yourself plenty of time to brainstorm your ideas, create an outline, and edit your entry as you would for any essay writing assignment for, again, any class. Think before you write. Brainstorm to generate some good ideas, then create an outline to help get you going. Each scholarship provider is looking for students who meet certain criteria. So again, consider writing about an experience or interest that highlights your strong ties to the organization's mission. Genuine passion and enthusiasm for your topic will show through in your essay writing. Make sure to follow all of the necessary steps and review them before submitting your scholarship essay. Trust us, folks, some of the brightest students, again, they've missed out on the chance to earn scholarship dollars all because they neglected to follow instructions. You don't want to fall into that category. Scholarship committees would rather see how you've overcome hardships and succeeded despite the obstacles in your path, or what you've learned from the times you failed. Again, it's all about, quite frankly, what you've learned. So success is always preferred, but sometimes learning from your failures is just as, sometimes maybe even more important. Share something about who you are. This is important. This is your chance to elaborate on your application where you wouldn't have had the opportunity to do so previously. It really helps you stand out. Telling your story makes an essay genuine and ultimately more memorable to the scholarship committee. Again, asking teachers, counselors, family members, or trustworthy friends for feedback on your essay will result in a better final product. Scholarship committees do notice those grammar mistakes. Again, I know, gang, we've talked about, mentioned this before, but it's so important. Even tiny errors can distract that reader from the message. So before you submit, make sure you proofread and potentially even put it through some type of online tool that checks grammar and spelling. And again, when you're tired, take a break, but don't throw in the towel. Make sure that when you're gassed, take that break, come back to it, and come back refreshed and recharged so that you can look at it with a fresh mind and fresh eyes and continue down this path. So we're nearing the end, and we just want to have a really quick checklist here of things that you should consider as you're moving forward. So remember to meet your deadlines. I guess we should probably preface that and say, make sure to know your deadlines first, so then you can meet them. List important accomplishments first. Gang, I know that sometimes, and I've seen this very recently, folks like to just go in chronological order. Sometimes things don't fall that nice and neat. Your biggest accomplishment might not have been your most recent one. So make sure that you're leading with your best foot forward. Make sure you're talking about the things that really make you unique and some of those big accomplishments right away, so it makes you stand out immediately. Showcase your honors and awards. Gang, there's always a time to be humble, and there's a way to do that while still showcasing your honors and awards, but don't hide your honors or awards. These are things that you've earned and things you should be proud of, so make sure you're showcasing them. Again, don't rule out smaller scholarships. For the reason that I said earlier, those smaller scholarships can add up. You get multiple of them, and all of a sudden they're just as valuable or potentially more valuable than some of those bigger scholarships you may have been aiming for. And then lastly, start applying early or as early as you can. And gang, this is where, for seniors, there's still time, but for all of those underclassmen, and gang, I'm talking even freshmen and sophomores, there are scholarships available for you as an underclassman. So don't discount those. Don't think that, I'm hearing Ed speak, I'll know this, to start looking maybe late in my junior year. you can start looking now. You're going to find some scholarship opportunities for you available right now. And if nothing else, it gives you a good, and if you aren't eligible right now, it gives you a really good roadmap, excuse me, to being able to know what's coming. Oh, gang, I forgot to press my forward button to check them all off. So there, we've got them all checked off now. So before we close out tonight, oftentimes people will wonder, okay, I've won, that's awesome, but what do I do now? So there are some things you need to understand once you win a scholarship. So first, how will you get the money? And that really often depends on the scholarship. The money may be sent directly to the college where it'll be applied to your tuition, fees, or any other amounts you owe. Or it might be sent directly to you in a check. The provider should tell you what to expect when it informs you that you've won the scholarship. If not, just make sure you ask. It's a really easy ask, and it helps clarify where it's going, and it's one less thing that you have to worry about then. Another one, how will the scholarships affect your other aid? All of your student aid added together cannot be more than your cost of attendance. And gang, just to unpack that a little bit, cost of attendance is a dollar amount. It's a number that the colleges and universities are required to have that says this is the amount for a student for this particular program in their situation. So their situation meaning, are they living with mom and dad? Are they living on campus? Are they living off campus? So they have an actual dollar amount assigned to that. And all of your aid can't exceed that dollar amount. You'll need to let your school know if you've been awarded a scholarship. And again, this is a federal regulation so that the financial aid office can subtract the amount from your cost of attendance. So make sure you ask the schools you're interested in attending how much they'll adjust your financial aid. In some cases, they might not adjust your aid at all. Some may reduce loans or other types of aid, depending on how much financial aid and scholarships you have coming in. If your scholarship is renewable, make sure you understand the renewable requirements. So things like grade point average, enrollment status, degree or major requirements. Do you have to reapply or is it automatic? So those are all questions we don't necessarily have answers for because they're going to be unique to the scholarship. So make sure you're asking those questions. And lastly, and gang, this is maybe the most important one. Make sure to write a thank you note to the scholarship donor and follow any additional requirements from the organization that awards you the scholarship. Gang, I can tell you again from firsthand experience how important that is and how it can lead to additional opportunities. I worked at a university where one of our students she was so happy to receive a scholarship. She wrote the donor, and again, she was speaking from the heart. Gang, she really moved that donor to the point where she and the donor ended up having, an appropriate relationship where they just got to know each other. And the donor really took the student under their wing, extended additional scholarship funds, and even offered an internship to the student. And it all started with a thank you note. So don't underestimate things that I think oftentimes folks anymore think are kind of, cliche, or they just don't matter. I'm telling you what, they really do. And for some folks, it can really move them, and it can be a win-win across the board. So don't underestimate the power of a thank you note. All right, gang. So we are at the end of our formal presentation. I have to show this disclosure slide, at least for a couple seconds. I'm going to go back to this one in case you missed it earlier. And I'm going to open up the Q&A, and I'm going to try to answer any Q&A we may have. So first one we have, scholarships have been requested, applied for each year of the college, or is this a one-time process? So this is going to be, it's really going to depend on the type of scholarship and really who the donor is. So oftentimes with colleges and universities, if they are the scholarship awardee, and oftentimes we're talking about what I would call admissions-based scholarships, those tend to be renewable. You will want to check with the college or university to see what those renewal criteria are. But, you know, realistically, again, it's really going to depend on that scholarship. If it's renewable, if it's a one-time process. Gang, I always kind of, as a rule of thumb, I always went in and assumed that it was, you know, you had to go through the process every year unless they stated otherwise. So just, again, it's going to vary. I just encourage you, just do your research. Don't be afraid to ask questions, especially if you've received the scholarship. Oh my goodness. I mean, most scholarship organizations would be ecstatic to hear you be engaged and ask those types of questions, because they know how much, again, along with the thank you note, how much you value that assistance, and they're really, you know, they'd really be flattered by that. Next question is, which scholarships should we look at that have low applicant submissions? So that's a good question, and I'm afraid I don't really have a good answer to that. You know, when it comes to low applicant submission, that's information that's usually not, I'm sorry, it's not really given to the general public unless that organization wants it leaked out. Oftentimes they don't, because they always want to at least project that they're getting that money out to the students in which they want to help. So it's a great question. I wish I had a great answer. The reality of it is, and this is why we really encourage folks to leave no stone unturned. Do your best to find as many scholarship opportunities that you can. You know, if it fits and you have the time, make the effort, because you never know, kind of to that point, which ones will have, you know, 3,000 applicants, or which ones will have 3. So approach, I would say approach them all like they all have 3, because again, the more scholarships you apply for, the better your chances of landing at least some of that money. So yeah. So next question is, what's the protocol having an issue on overcoming a health challenge during the first 3 years of high school? Is that okay to write about? I would say absolutely that's okay to write about. You know, folks, they want to hear, again, they want to hear about you. They want to hear about what makes you unique, what makes your situation unique, and in a case like that, how you overcame it. So I think it's absolutely appropriate to speak to that. Make sure that they understand your story. Again, if you can tie it back into their mission, that's amazing as well. Folks, again, don't think you can't talk personally about your own situation. Please do. That's what makes it you. That makes it personal. That's what makes it unique. Own it. Just really own that application and that whole process, because they're going to see the authentic you, and more times than not, they're going to love it. So yeah, I would encourage that, actually. So next question, does the scholarship essay determine if the applicant is qualified or not? Or is it more so that it just helps boost the applicant's chances of being considered qualified for receiving a scholarship? So that's a great question. And I can say that most of the time, scholarships will have kind of baseline criteria. So, you know, depending on what that is, it could be GPA, it could be, you know, if someone is involved in a specific activity or things of that nature, residency, if you live in a certain state or community, those types of things. But what I would say is, you know, that's kind of what gets you through the door, if you will. After that, a big part of it is your essay, because if they say that, you know, a student, they're requiring a 3.0 GPA, odds are they are truly requiring a 3.0 GPA. But once you're in the door, they're going to consider, you know, once you meet those criteria, everybody again is created equal. Then that's where the essay really comes into play and is so important. So yeah, so I would say, to answer that, it's really more about the listed requirements, and then the essay is what really kind of separates those who potentially will receive scholarships and not necessarily. So great question. So next question, can international students gain U.S. federal and state scholarships? So that's an interesting question, and the answer is possibly. There are a lot of private scholarships, I'll tell you, that don't require any type of residency status, so they don't require you to be a U.S. citizen. It gets a little bit more complicated for federal and state scholarships. And it's really going to depend on the scholarship, gang. And I know that's a lot of times people eye roll that, and it's like, really, that's your answer? Unfortunately, in this case, yes, it is. So I know there are some states out there that don't require residency, or I should say U.S. citizenship, to be eligible. Um, federal scholarships, gang, I'll be honest, I believe the vast majority of the ones I've seen do require you to be a U.S. citizen, largely because those are fueled and funded by federal tax dollars. So they really want them going to U.S. citizens. But again, I would just encourage folks to take a look and see what's out there. Drill down into them. If you find one that you think you might be qualified for, do a little bit more digging, and you may be surprised that it doesn't require citizenship or residency. All right, so next question. Will you please share more resources and links where to look for scholarships? Yeah, so I would say, probably the biggest ones, again, in terms of search engines, are Big Future by the College Board, and then also FastWeb, which is just simply fastweb.com. Those are two of the bigger ones, in addition to what we have shared on the screen. But I'd also, gang, I would again encourage you, those are just a couple of resources. I would really strongly encourage you to go to your high school counselor, as oftentimes they have a list of local and regional resources, as well as just local and regional scholarships. I would look at local community foundations. So, there are just local organizations as well, such as employers or churches, things of that nature. But oftentimes, if you have a local community foundation, they have usually just a plethora of scholarships available to folks within the community. So that's another big resource that I would really strongly encourage. So next question is, can scholarships go to housing or commuting? So it really depends. So some scholarships, they do make them what I would call tuition and fee specific. Others say, hey, it can go to anything as long as it's within cost of attendance. So again, I know it's kind of a lukewarm answer. It depends. I would say the majority of scholarships, though, as long as it goes to what we would call cost of attendance, so that can go to tuition fees, housing, meal plan, books, transportation, pretty much anything, all the above. Most of the scholarships can go to those types of charges. So keep that in mind. But again, it's going to be dictated at the scholarship level. All right. Do you know of bold.org? And if so, is it credible? I'm vaguely familiar of it. What I would say about what, and I think we could talk about bold.org or really any scholarship resource, gang. The biggest thing that I would recommend is just, are they asking for money? If they're asking you for some type of fee or something like that, I would be very leery of it, because quite frankly, it shouldn't cost you money to look for free money. So keep that in mind. Some other red flags, especially at the application stage, is if they are asking for what we would call PII, so personally identifiable information. Things that I think at this point it's been drilled in our head that we should not be sharing. Things like date of birth, social security number, those types of things. If they're asking for any of those things, if they're asking you to pay for it or any of those things, I would be very, very leery of that being a legitimate scholarship resource or scholarship itself. All right, so what's the difference between a grant and a scholarship? Gang, that is a great question. So scholarships can be awarded for any reason. So it could be, as we've mentioned, it can be for academics, athletics, a special skill. The big thing is that it doesn't have to be based on need or have income caps to it. Whereas when we start talking about grants are by definition what in the financial aid world we would call need-based aid. So you have to show demonstrated need. Oftentimes that's done by completing the FAFSA. So again, free application for federal student aid. But that is generally speaking the biggest driver for grant money, because oftentimes the only way, or one of the only ways, that a school or the federal government or the state government can really define if you have need is by filling out the FAFSA or some other financial aid application that really determines if you have that unmet need. So that's the biggest difference. They're both free money. If you can get your hands on both, that's fantastic. But the big difference is grants, you have to show unmet need. Scholarships, you don't. So hopefully that helps you with that one. So can scholarships be denied by colleges? If so, most colleges accept most of them, right? So I think so the answer is that I would say technically, yes, a college could deny a scholarship. Realistically, I don't know why in the world they would, because quite frankly, you worked really hard for that money. You earned it through the application process. I'm not sure why they would deny it. The only way that they would, and I wouldn't even necessarily say it's denying it. The only way that it could come into play is if, again, we talk about that cost of attendance. Everything adds up, and it can't go over that cost of attendance number. So the only way they could quote unquote deny a scholarship is if for some reason you had so much scholarship money that it was exceeding cost of attendance. And gang, if that happens, quite frankly, I would contact the scholarship organization and ask them, hey, this is my situation. Is there any way we could defer my scholarship to next semester or next year? Do some asking to see if you can essentially get some of that scholarship money deferred, so that in the case where you've got so much that the school is saying we can't take anymore, hey, ask them, can we do it next year? I'd love that. It can't help me this year. I've already got too much. Let's kick it back to next year. That way, it's still helping me. And quite frankly, you still got someone on your side saying how great of an organization you are. So that's what I would recommend doing. So technically, I guess the answer is yes, but hopefully there's kind of an avenue around that so you can keep all that free money that you've earned. So next question, is there a way to find out what scholarships are available for a certain specific age, like junior year of high school opportunities? I don't notice yet filters that specific. So oftentimes it's not necessarily a filter when we start talking about those in scholarship search engines. Oftentimes it's when you fill out your profile or you update your profile, it's usually asking where you're at in your high school journey. And with that, it's automatically filtering out ones that don't apply to you. So if you're a junior, using this example, you fill out your profile and you get your results from the search engine. Those results apply to you. So if it's specifically bringing it back to you, you open it up and it's not saying it's specifically for seniors or for freshmen or any other age range, that means you're eligible for it. So it's not, I guess to answer your question, it's not really a filter. It's just more, I mean, I guess technically it is, it's just done behind the scenes. So you don't have to worry about it. Your profile and the algorithm is already taking care of that. So yeah, hopefully that helps with that. So what are the logistics of sending scholarship money to colleges? So the logistics are actually, I guess, I don't know, as a former administrator, I would say pretty easy. We talked about just really, that's one of the questions you want to ask after you've been awarded, like you've been notified how that you've won. So what's next? Really at that point, it's just asking them, hey, are you going to send it straight to the college or university? Or are you going to send it to me? If they send it straight to the college or university, that's awesome. I would still recommend that you just reach out to that financial aid office and let them know, hey, this money's coming. I've just been awarded this. A lot of times they're going to just ask for a copy of the acknowledgement letter because, again, they have to record that on your financial aid information. If the scholarship program says we're going to send you the check directly, you still have to notify the college or university. Again, the financial aid office. Best way of doing that, again, quick email, even a phone call. But again, if they send you just that notification, memo, letter, whatever, saying that you've won, you can just scan it and send it off to the school. Once you get that check, all you have to do is just bring it into the college or university. They'll put it right on your account and you're done. So those are really the logistics of once you know that you have gotten the money, or I should say once you've been awarded, ask that question of the scholarship organization and then kind of go from there. So next question is there a limit to applying to scholarships? The answer to that is no. No limit to applying. You can apply to as many scholarships as you want. And actually, we encourage that. You want to make sure that you're hitting those that are in your wheelhouse. But the reality of it is there's no limit. So apply. Again, do your best. Make sure that you're making your application and your essay applicable to that scholarship. But there's no limit to applications. Again, there is a limit to how much money you can receive any given year, but if you hit that cap, that's where I would say, talk to those scholarship organizations, see if they can defer some of that money to a later year. That way you're still getting as much free money as possible. So do organizations that offer scholarship give us a criteria of what they want from applications when they apply, as in what accomplishments they want to see? So I guess, again, the answer is kind of yes and no. Oftentimes, they're going to kind of put that in those minimum criteria. But in terms of accomplishments, I don't think so. I think as long as you're hitting those requirements, you can really highlight whatever accomplishments you feel is appropriate based on that scholarship. Again, we always say, lead with your strongest foot forward. Make sure that you're bringing your biggest accomplishments, but also make sure you're tying it in with that scholarship organization's mission and their goals as well. So again, usually it is just the minimum criteria. After that, hey, get out there and lead with your best foot forward. What do you think is going to really get their attention, grab their attention, and keep it? All right, so a little bit of I wouldn't say off topic, because anything financial aid is related to scholarships. So the question, and I had kind of mentioned this, the question is, was the FAFSA delayed? I thought it would be available by December 1st. So the FAFSA was delayed. So it was initially October 1st. The Department of Ed, U.S. Department of Education, then asked or sent out notification saying that it would be open in, quote, December. So again, I'm sorry, I know that's cheesy with the air quotes, but that's essentially what the Department of Ed did. They never said this December 1st. There were some media outlets and some organizations that said December 1st, but the Department of Education never said December 1st. That was floated out there by other third parties. So long story short, Department of Ed said December. They just recently, and gang, I'm talking like, I think it was maybe a week and a half ago, that the Department of Ed came out and said it would be, again, air quotes, no later than December 31st. So that leads a lot of organizations, including, I would say, Sallie Mae, and I can't speak for NSHSS, but we're kind of assuming that it's going to be December 31st at this point. So if it comes out sooner than that, I would keep your eyes and ears open, but realistically, December 31st is what I would be shooting for. And I'd also say that, let's say they open it up a little bit earlier, December 28th, gang, you're not going to be left out in the cold if you apply on December 31st. So I would just say, enjoy the holiday season. Once New Year's Eve hits, check the studentaid.gov website. If it's live, go ahead and apply. All right, so can scholarships be taken away from me if I decide to switch my major in college? So the answer is maybe. It just depends on what the scholarship criteria are and requirements are. So if the scholarship is contingent on you, say it's renewable, and let's just say we'll use good old Ed Recker as a example here. I entered college as a journalism major. And if I would have gotten a scholarship that said you get $500 a year, it is contingent on you maintaining this GPA and being a journalism major, I would have lost that scholarship because starting my sophomore year, I changed my major to business. So it just depends, but that's usually the biggest, that's the best example. If a scholarship is contingent on a certain major, if it specifically says you have to be this major, then yes, you would lose that scholarship. Now, with that being said, let's say if it's a one-time only scholarship and it says, Ed Recker, you've been given $500 for a journalism major. I only got it my freshman year. It was only a one-time award. Sophomore year, I changed it to business. I would not be obligated to give that money back. At the time I received it, I was a journalism major. I was okay. I fulfilled the requirements of that scholarship. So hopefully that helps. It depends. But again, it kind of devil's in the details there. I would just make sure to see, is it required by the scholarship itself? And is it a contingency of maintaining that scholarship? So can you provide any tips on how to secure strong letters of recommendation for scholarship applications? So I think the biggest tips I can give for that is, gang, and I mean, you could really project this out to life in general, but especially for this, gang, it's all about relationships. So I would actually encourage you to ask folks whom you have a good relationship with. You may, even if you're a straight A student and you go to this, maybe a teacher that you've done really, really well in their class, yeah, they might write you a letter of recommendation, but are you engaged in class? Do you have conversations maybe in the hallway or in office hours or things like that? I mean, those things go a long way, because in doing so, you have really opened yourself up and allowed that teacher, that counselor, that community member to know who you are as a person. That will shine through on those letters of recommendation. So keep that in mind. I mean, gang, don't get me wrong. I mean, if you get good grades, ask the teachers. I'm sure they'll write you a good letter of recommendation. But if you want one that really shines, it's all about those relationships and how you've built that relationship. If it's more transactional, then odds are the letter is going to be more transactional. If it's more personal, that letter is going to be more personal, and it's really going to shine. So is there a tax liability to scholarships? Does it count as income? So that's a really good question. And the answer, and gang, I know you're probably like shaking your head like, really, is this guy serious? And this is a financial aid answer a lot of the times. It depends. So if the amount of scholarships you receive exceed tuition and fees, it is considered a taxable event. That is IRS speak, meaning you have to report it as income. Now, again, this doesn't necessarily mean that you have to pay taxes on it. Okay, it is a taxable event. I will say that I am not an accountant. I am not a tax professional, and Sallie Mae does not give tax advice. Long story short, it's actually in that disclosure slide that we showed up there. But the only way it could possibly do so is if any scholarship amount did exceed tuition and fees. So the short answer is yes, but by and large, it depends on how much you get. So next question, if I took a gap year, but I sent my scholarships last year, can I still go to college using those scholarships? I didn't take gap year. So I guess the answer, again, it depends. That's really going to be dependent on who awarded you the scholarships and if they were okay with that. So again, that's something that if that's an option, if that's something that you're looking into, taking that gap year, I would absolutely reach out to, whether it be the college or university or the private donor, and say, hey, I'm thinking about taking a gap year. Are these funds going to be available to me if the following year without having to reapply if I do so? So again, I know it's lukewarm, gang, but some donors will say yes, some will say, well, no, we're moving on to the next student. So I'm sorry, it depends. I know y'all are like, this guy is like Mr. It depends, and that's financial aid, gang. Sorry. So it looks like we have a state-specific one here. I'm going to try to answer this as best I can, and then we'll wrap it up. I live in New York, and they have something called TAP grants, only given in New York State. If you know, can I apply for this without filling out the FAFSA form? So unfortunately, I do not know if that's the case. Again, this is probably one of those that really it could vary. But I would encourage you, and I apologize, gang. I live in Ohio, so I could answer a lot of Ohio specific questions when it comes to New York and New York State or any other state other than Ohio. I have limited knowledge. So I would just encourage you to potentially reach out to your high school counselor, or even reach out to the folks, take one of the schools that you're looking at, colleges or universities you're looking at, reach out to their admissions office and potentially even their financial aid office. They'll definitely be able to tell you, or even oftentimes the state, in this case, New York State, I'm assuming it would be probably their Department of Education, New York State Department of Education. They would probably have that information readily available on their website. Or if not, again, the admissions office, the financial aid office, most likely, possibly even your high school counselor should be able to answer that information for you. So, all right, gang. With that, that is it for the questions. We are at 1 after the hour. Gang, you have been fantastic. You have been incredibly engaged. I genuinely hope that this was as great for you as it was for me. I know I probably sound odd in saying this, because for most of you, you're probably like, it's Monday night and this guy actually enjoys doing this. And the answer is yes, I do. I love being able to help out. I love being able to make a difference, especially when it comes to helping you all find free money for college. So again, I hope this was incredibly helpful. I wish you all the best of luck in your search for free money moving forward. And I hope you all have a fantastic Thanksgiving holiday coming up. And hopefully y'all are quite frankly done with classes for the week. So again, on behalf of NSHSS and Sallie Mae, thank you so much for your time and participation this evening. We really do appreciate it. This concludes tonight's presentation. Have a great evening, everyone. Good night.